Hi, in this lecture video, I'll be discussing some of the basic descriptions about the periodic table and why is it important that any chemistry student need to know about it. So first, what is a periodic table and why is it important that we learn about it? Then this table right here is basically an attempt to put all 118 different elements together in such a way that will correspond to their chemical and physical properties. So we see there's elements that behave chemically similar to each other and then different compared to other elements. So it is a way how we will be able to understand all of it. It is a way how we can organize the element. So that way, when we look at the table, we'll be able to see that the elements would behave similarly or differently from each other. Then that's what the periodic table is all about, to organize the element in such a way that will correspond to the similarity or differences in their physical and chemical property. And this table right here was proposed in the mid 1800s. And this is actually really cool because this was organized way before we even have so much advanced knowledge about chemistry at all. Now, initially, the elements were arranged into this table right here, according to the atomic mass, not the atomic number. And later on, we revise it because we see that it's actually more accurate by arranging the element based on atomic number rather than atomic mass. And depending on the atomic number of the different element, they are arranged basically from left to right and top to bottom. So these are the atomic number of the elements. So let's first discuss about the organization of the periodic table. First, this table right here is being split into 7 rows and 18 columns. So here will be row 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way to 7. Each of this row right here is also referred to as the period. So here we have period 1 all the way to period 7. And going across, we will then have 18 columns. Each of this column right here is referred to as a group. So here will be a group 1, group 2, all the way to group 18. And now, within the middle, or a little bit to the left, to the right side of the periodic table, we then see this zigzag line right here. And this zigzag line right here is a very important divider. It basically divides the metal and the non-metal. Some of the elements behave as metal, while other elements behave as non-metal, versus other behave as metalloid. So basically, the elements are classified into those 3 big categories: metal, non-metal, and metalloid. And they are found along this zigzag line. To the left side of this zigzag line, that's where we'll find the metal. And to the right side of the zigzag line, that's where we'll find the non-metal in green. And along this zigzag line, on top and bottom of it, in purple, that's where we'll find the metalloid. So, how do chemists classify metal, non-metal, or metalloid? Then the answer, we look at a very important chemical property that the metal have. Basically, what does the element want to do with regard to electron? For the most part, if an element like to give up electron in chemical reaction, then that element right there would then be classified as a metal. So metal are basically elements that like to give up electron in chemical reaction. Versus non-metal are elements in the opposite of metal that like to gain electron in chemical reaction. And as for the metalloid are elements that can do both. They can gain electron when they need to, and they can also accept electron when they need it to. So those are the metalloid. So the metalloid have both property of the metal and the non-metal. This is the reason why that they are found in the middle between the metal and the non-metal. And here is the complete diagram of the periodic table with all of the element name and the element symbol. So if we were to be looking at one of this block right here, we will find the following. So here in this case right here, Be, this is the chemical symbol of the element. And the name of the element is down here. So in this case right here, Be is beryllium. And now the number above here on the top, that is the atomic number. And this number 9.01, this is called the atomic mass. And we'll go over more information about this later. So information such as atomic number, chemical symbol, atomic mass, and chemical name are given in each of this square for each of the elements. Now here in this class right here, students are expected to memorize some of the chemical names and symbol of some of the common elements. And this version of the periodic table right here where the name are given, so this is not the version that will be given to students on quizzes exam. On quiz and exam, you will be given this version right here where you only have the chemical symbol but no name along with it. So that's something for you to recognize. So make sure you can memorize some of the common names and symbol for some of the common elements. What are the common elements? Those are the ones that have been highlighted here in yellow. So this is the list of elements that's starting out right now. You need to memorize the name and the chemical symbol. You do not need to memorize the atomic number and their atomic mass because this table right here will be given to you. So once you can identify them, you can use this to figure out all the information. Now let's go over more classification of the element on the periodic table. Within the periodic table, the elements are further classified into 18 groups. An element from the same group have similar chemical property with each other. And that's something that is very cool about the periodic table, that after we have organized them in this fashion right here, we can now see similarity in the physical and chemical property. And so this 18 group right here as follows. So group 1, group 2, all the way to group 18. And again, the column corresponds to the group. So the group 1 is actually called the alkaline metal. Some of this group right here have special name to them. And group 1's element are called the alkaline metal. Group 2 element are called the alkaline earth metal. An element from group 13 to group 12 are then called the transition metal. And go into this left side, this is the non-metal right here, and some of the group that are interesting in the non-metal are the group 17 and group 18. Group 18 elements are called the noble gases. And the group 17 elements are called the halogen. So those are some of the special name of some of the interesting groups. And now let's discuss that in fuller detail. So first, main group element. Main group element basically refer to all elements except for the transition metal. So other than element in group 3 to group 12, everything else are considered to be the main group elements. So whenever we refer to main group element, we are referring to elements in groups one and 2, and then group 13 to group 18. Versus element in group 3 to group 12, then this are basically called the transition metal. So transition metal refer to elements in groups 3 to 12. and the alkaline metal are the element in group 1. Now, some of a very interesting property of element in group 1 are as follows. In chemical reaction, they like to give up electron because they are metal, and now they give up 1 electron. So they tend to give up 1 electron in chemical reaction. And all of the elements in group 1 tend to do that. And now, as for the alkaline earth metal, then again, these are elements in group 2. And because these are metal, that tells us that in chemical reaction, they also like to give up electron as well. And now we know that they like to give up 2 electrons in chemical reaction. So they give up 2 electrons in chemical reaction. And RXN stands for reaction. And now moving on to the group 17, the halogen. So the halogens are basic element in group 17. Now group 17 is a non-metal, right? So in chemical reaction, they like to accept electron. And now they all accept a very, very specific number, which is 1 electron. So they like to gain 1 electron in chemical reaction. Group 16, on the other hand, although we do not have a name for this group, in chemical reaction, they like to accept 2 electrons. And now, group 15 in chemical reaction would like to accept 3 electrons. So again, this is why this periodic table right here is very, very cool, because now we can see trends among the different elements once we organize them into this table. And lastly, the noble gases. The noble gases refer to elements in group 18. And now, they are stable elements and they're not reactive. So they do not like to accept electron or gain electron in chemical reaction, but they like to not do anything at all. So therefore we call them the noble gases. So make sure you are familiar with some of these basic descriptions about the periodic table, how they are organized, and recognize some of the common name of the different groups and their property. And please work on this problem to make sure that you know how to get the information.